It's time for In Bed with Jed.
Welcome back to In Bed with Jed. I'm Jed Ryan, and welcome to my bed. Today we have two very special guests. I thought briefly we were going to have a third. I saw a black kitty in there. Turned a little camera shy once we started recording there. But today we have two special guests. We have Peter Mack, critically acclaimed and award-winning performer, known for his fantastic, crowd-pleasing tributes to, among them, Mae West, Elaine Stritch, Karen Walker. But there's one performer who he pays tribute to that stands out, and he has been paying tribute to her for 17 years, winning all kinds of audience delight and critical acclaim, and that is Judy Garland. So Peter is joined by his husband, DJ Mack, and DJ is also a performer, and they both do the Golden Girls live together. We're going to talk about that in a little while. So please welcome Peter and DJ. And Peter, hey, yes. Thank you all.
And our little here, she's on our laps.
Yes. So we'll try to keep.
Gotcha.
We do have a third guest.
And what is her name?
She is Louise, but she is known as Wheezy. And that's because, she's going to be 9 actually on June 10th, which is which would have been Judy Garland's 93rd birthday.
Yes. Speaking of June 10th, that is just perfect because Peter. What's that?
98th birthday. Sorry.
98th birthday. Yes. So Peter sings in his own voice, and he also performs as himself. Peter Mack as Peter Mack. Yes. I remember that. So, yes, Judy's 98th birthday, and for that, you have a very special online show planned, Peter Mack as Judy Garland, and that is going to be on June 10th. So let's start off with asking, is that your first virtual show? What is that like to go from being such an active, busy live performer to planning an online show, a one-night only online show? Wow.
It's terrifying. It really is terrifying because you're so used to hearing, our walls are paper thin at our theater. So, you've got, you hear the crowd coming in, you hear them being ushered in, you hear the audience complaints about their seats, all of that stuff. And you don't have any of that. And I've never really been interested in doing film per se, because I like live feedback. So the idea of doing this, and essentially it'll be the shows that I do if an audience was there. It's just going to be kind of weird waiting, how many beats do I wait, because there's supposed to be a laugh on that line. So it's going to be really weird from that perspective. And not getting, not hearing the applause or, and it's just odd. The whole idea of it is odd to me.
Right. Well, now, early on, the two of you spoke, and we spoke about how, unfortunately, before the lockdown, before the theaters closed down, there were already signs brewing in the works. It was almost like a bad prophecy. You had mentioned that you saw some ticket sales declining before the theaters were actually shut down because of the pandemic and all that. And what kind of feeling as two performers who are so active? What was that like for you to have to go through?
We went from 7 performances a week to 0 performances a week. And April 12th would have been our 2nd anniversary since we returned to New York. And since that day, since April 12th, we've never done less than 6 shows a week. And sometimes we've done 9. So it was really a shock to our system. But those 10 days leading up to the official closure, we started to see a lot of people request deferment of their tickets to a later date. In some cases, they asked for a refund because of COVID. And quite frankly, they didn't even call it COVID then. They just called it this sickness that's coming. So I remember our last performance was Peter's Judy, and I do a curtain speech at every one of Peter's shows. And I said, we're so glad that you guys are here. I appreciate that we've moved all of you up to the front of the theater, because if you look around behind you, you can see those empty seats. And I said, a lot of people have canceled because of this new virus. And the murmurs in the audience were like almost insulted, like there's nothing happening. And
Laughter, a lot of laughter.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then that just 4 days later is when the official announcement came to close. And what's been hard for us, besides the canceling of performances, just that's what we do for a living, you know, having a place to go and perform 5 days a week, it's also been the logistical nightmare. So we produce our shows that we're also star in. So we've had to return almost $49,000 worth of tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have that money that sits in our account. The way that the law works, there's actually ticket broker escrow accounts. And so we've had to do all of this vast paperwork and returns through the brokers and the credit card companies. And what's unfortunate for producers is they don't return the credit card fees. And so, yeah, we're out like $6,000 for revenue we're never going to get just in fees alone. So it's just been one thing on top of another. And we're also 1099 employees. You know, that's how Peter and I get paid. Like a lot of actors, we incorporated as individuals. And just this nightmare of navigating even the unemployment network, you know, we still haven't been approved from unemployment. So it's just roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. So, and I'm not sure that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and as dark as that may sound. And I'm not trying to be a pessimist, but we keep asking, you know, the unions, both Actors Equity and SAG-AFTRA have made it really clear that they won't go back, and rightfully so, until there's safety of the actors guaranteed. And so
certainly until there's a medicine or medicines that are keeping it more in control. I mean, at this point, I think, was it Gabrielle Gutierrez who said, you know, there may never be a vaccine, or it could be years before there's a vaccine. I mean, there's no vaccine for HIV, you know, which is something, you know, we've had to come to terms with, but people manage to live, obviously, very healthy and productive lives. So it's kind of the same thing. I think they just have to figure out a medication or some kind of medications that will make people feel safer, you know, or know that even if you get it, you know, you might have a bad couple of weeks, or you might have, but it's not, you know, you're not going to die, essentially.
Right. Yes, I did pass by the Producers Club. I did visit Times Square one night, and it was kind of like a very eerie experience, almost like a post-apocalyptic horror movie, because all the lights were on in Times Square, but yet there was nobody in the streets, very few people. And a lot of places were dark, a lot of businesses, and in the dark, a lot of the streets that normally would be very distinctive in their own right and have their own characteristics, they pretty much all look the same. And I did pass by the Producers Club as well. It was just a very strange feeling. But New York, New York has always had its share of challenges, and I really do have the confidence that we will work our way through here, hopefully emerge stronger than ever. Kind of like Judy herself. You know?
Yes, Judy came back.
Yes. So without giving too much away, what surprises do you have in store for us for this one night only show on June 10th? Peter Mack is Judy virtual.
Hopefully, what I can tell you about all of the shows that I do is that it's meant to be entertaining but educational at the same time. You usually don't get, we get a small percentage, I would say, of hardcore Garland fans, but most of them are middle of the road, so they don't know, you know, Judy's history or some of the really funny stories that she would tell on talk shows. So that stuff is always interwoven, but these particular shows, Judy Garland in Concert, they're a fantasia, and it's set up that way. When you stop to think, you have to realize Judy is announcing that she's celebrating her 98th birthday. Now that in and of itself, you know, she's 98, but she still looks the way she did in 1963 during her television series. So it's a Fantasia out the gate. And people will ask me at the end, you know, so was she really there? Is she a ghost? Does she not know that she passed away? You know, that's all up for the audience to decide. But because she's talking about current events, she certainly talks about politics and the fact that she's a staunch Democrat, which sometimes does not go over too well with some of the audience members. Yeah. They don't like that she's a staunch, but she was a very staunch Democrat. So that's in there too.
Called up JFK to sing him a happy birthday, and that's indisputable. So, I mean, that pretty much says a lot. And I think Judy would have a lot to say about what's going on in this day and age, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
So
yeah.
I believe that she would actually be like singing to the masses, singing to the crowds of people in the street, even if we're on lockdown. She would be entertaining people. Even during this time, trying to keep them optimistic and all that.
you get the Garland songs, you know, you get some of the lesser known Garland gems we put in there, and then there are the songs. We have a whole show we do called The Songs That Got Away, and I do a few of those in there. So it's stuff that would have primarily been written post 1969, but that are Judy songs. So those find their way in there too.
You haven't lived until you've heard Judy sing ABBA.
Yes, Judy has sung Dancing Queen. Yes, that is true. Yes, she has.
Wow, that's like a That's like a transgenerational Fantasia on pop culture themes. There, wow. I look forward to hearing that. That's for sure. Wow.
It's kind of like Ethel Merman doing the disco album, which I love.
Yes, that's one of my favorites too.
I think it's great. And I had this conversation with a friend recently. I said, I think Judy would have done the same thing. I give Merman credit for wanting to branch out and try to tap into that generation. And it didn't hurt the song. The song sounded great. They just had that great disco beat. So,
well, I dare anybody to listen to that album and not be in a much better mood after they hear it, you know, to not have a little bit more energy to start their day there. Wow. So you're very protective about Judy's image and legacy. And yeah. I know that we've discussed this before, the constant numbers of books and TV programs and movies that depict her as a victim, or yes, or that focus on the more salacious aspects of her life. And I admit I'm a big pop culture fiend, and I'm fascinated by every little thing about Judy and Liza as well. So I admit that I probably have read some of these books and I've seen the movies and that kind of thing. But I also know that you can't believe everything that you read in the books. You can't believe everything you see on TV or in the movies. So how do you feel about that? And what do you feel is like a good representation of all aspects? Because you say Judy was definitely not a victim. She did not classify herself as a victim. She would not have wanted to be. And there was a lot of aspects about her life that people are still not informed about. So what would you have to say about that, about her depiction in pop culture today in 2020?
Well, if you're just going to play it, the fact that she had an addiction to prescription medication, and that's going to be your sole focus, whether it's in a cabaret show or in a movie or in a book, that's one note, because there was so much more there. Plus, you have to understand how she got that way and when she lived and what she was dealing with. It's not fun. If you have an addiction, I live with a recovering alcoholic. It's not, so it was a living hell for her. So certainly I don't like to see people using it to get cheap laughs, which I've seen many people do that over the years, and that pisses me off. But it would with anybody. Elvis, Marilyn, I mean, my God, I can think of so many more people to make fun of and do a show out of. Alec Baldwin has the right idea, and I'll say no more. Those are the people you go after. that are hurting people. Don't leave Judy alone. What did she ever do to anybody? You know, you can tell the truth. There were harrowing experiences. Lorna Luft talked about several really but she also explained and said, you know, you have to realize my mother, this isn't mommy dearest. My mother never would have done that if not for what these pills were doing to her. You know, you have to have the context of it. You know, and then you get a movie like the Zellweger film where they just, it's 99.9% lies and go, what was the point? That was a wasted 2 hours. So, and I wanted to like it. I went in with such an open mind, but in the end, Life with Judy Garland, brilliant. Judy Davis, Tammy Blanchard, all of those people at ABC, Neil Meron, Craig Zaden, I forget the other gentleman who produced it, Robert L. Friedman, who wrote the screenplay, who I've had the pleasure of meeting. They all went out of their way to say, well, we're going to tell the story, but you have to know every beat of the story to understand why these things happened. And you can't show her every 2 minutes with a bottle of pills in her hand.
Every year at this time, Peter does a show called Get Happy, where he does 14 costumes, 11 different wigs, and you know, it's a 2-hour show. It's a giant show. So for us not to do this year, we felt we had to do something, and that's the reason we're doing this online. Part of us too is we've been resistant to do this because we really take pride in the fact that we're tribute artists, and there's an illusion that we can create by controlling the temperature in the room and the lighting, and you know, the accuracy of the costumes and the wigs we can still do, but the lighting in Zoom isn't like the lighting that we can do in our theater we pay $20,000 a month for. So it's
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to learn as we go. So, you know, we know that people will be.
And everybody, you know, everybody has an opinion about Judy and, you know, how she should be portrayed, or if they have a friend who did Judy, then that's the only person that should play Judy. And someone once said to me, you know, Judy Garland is your role. And I said, listen, Hamlet is nobody's role any more than Judy Garland is anybody's role. What I do with the role makes it my own. But that's like saying, you know, only Robert Preston should play Harold Hill. You know, I mean, it's been dead 50 years or 40 years. You know, there are other people that can play the parts. Although I think it's a little bit different when you're dealing with a character from a play or a musical. It's not quite the same as playing a real life person. And I think there are more traps you can fall into when you're playing. I deal with her demons, even in the concert shows. There has to be that moment where she talks about her addiction and you see that kind of dark side of her. But the audience also gets to realize where it's all coming from. Which was like the show that John was talking about, Get Happy or Behind the Rainbow. I have people at the end who say, I didn't know her mother was that bad. I didn't know things were that bad at the studio. I didn't know that she was forced to have 3 abortions. I mean, and you go, my God, it's a woman. It's amazing that this woman lived as long as she did.
Yes. Well, but if people go on YouTube, which I'm also a YouTube junkie, and I've gone on there and I've seen the interviews. They're actually interviews. These are vintage interviews, like the Barbara Walters interview, where she does talk about her mother, and she does say her mother was like a stage mama demon and all that, and she does talk about how the studio took advantage of her. So these are Judy's own words, and there would have been an autobiography, right, that we unfortunately would never got the chance to read and all that. So the people that you know, you've done your research, you know, you're using her words and what she actually expressed to people, which is a great thing. And now also you also got praise for your show from her own family, from Liza and Joey, right? They sent you a note, correct?
Liza and Joey sent a note via Margaret OBrien, who's become a dear friend of mine. She was a big champion of mine when I first got to Los Angeles. And so I think it was the 3rd time Margaret came to see the show. And she sent, the note was sent on behalf of Liza and Joey, wish we could be with you and thank you and keep up the good work. That was basically was really cool. That was really cool. And then Mickey Rooney, was one of the great pinnacles for me to have his approval, because for all intents and purposes, he and Judy were like brother and sister, and he was very protective of Judy. So to have an award presented to me by Mickey Rooney and Margaret OBrien, and to have Mickey's approval, because Mickey, as the president of the Southern California Motion Picture Council, pointed out to me afterwards.
Yes.
He said, Mickey he's a tough old bird. He doesn't like a lot, and he loved you, so that's pretty high praise. He was incredibly sweet and kind to me, and I know Mickey could have his moments.
Tell Jed about that night with Mickey standing up.
What happened was the owners of the club stood behind him because they were curious to see how he was going to react. And Margaret, my mother, God rest her, was directly opposite him, so she was watching him. And I came out on stage because they said, "We want you to do your Judy show, then change into a boy, then you'll get your award." So that's what I did, and I came out on stage, and Bob Tomasino, the owner of Oil Can Harry, said to me afterwards, when you came out, he leaned over to Margaret and said, "Oh my God, doesn't she look beautiful tonight?" So I thought, wow, that's interesting. And then he started to engage me in conversation as Judy from the audience during the show and said, "Jutes, remember when we did the big number with Busby Berkeley?" And fortunately, I knew what he was talking about, so I could answer him back, but it was surreal for me and for the audience. Like, oh my God, Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland are having a conversation together. It was bizarre and wonderful.
Whoa.
Later on, Margaret OBrien said to me, she said, "I think in a weird way, you gave him one last visit with Judy."
Yeah.
But then afterwards, he spoke to me, when I was changed, and said, "Do you have a good agent? Do you have a good lawyer? That's really important." He was great. He was great.
So sweet.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yes. Wow. So speaking of her, Liza and Joey, have you met her? Have you met her children, like in person? Lorna, Liza, and Joey. Have you actually had the chance to speak to them at all, or?
Joey, I had dinner with at an event called Judy in Hollywood. Gosh, that was 2013 or 12?
Yeah, like 2013.
2013. It was 2013. Very nice man. Very nice man. Joey has never seen me. I from what I understand, her kids keep up with everything that's going on, especially now because of the internet. So they're aware. I know Liza and Joey, Margaret was apprehensive about coming to see the show at first. We assured her that it was a loving tribute, and then she went back to them and said, "It's a loving tribute to your mom. He's not making fun of her. He's not using the bad stuff, to get laughs." It's, and then that was shortly thereafter that she brought the note to me. Right. But whether or not I've never performed live for them. I'm sure they must see this stuff on YouTube and such. A friend of mine went to see Lorna John Romano. She was appearing somewhere. She was at a college in Brooklyn a few months back or last year. And she had, I guess, a booth at the end where you could get her book and so on. And he said, "Oh, I've seen Peter Mack do your mom many times." And from what he told me, her reply was, "I've heard nothing but good things." So, if that,
wow. Yeah.
So,
and have you met Liza, or?
I have never met Liza. I saw Liza present a check at a Broadway fundraiser. That's as close as I've ever gotten.
Yes, I have not met her either, and I hope that I get a chance, because she is one of the celebrities that I have not met that I really want to meet. I have not met Joey either. I met Lorna several times, and she's just as cute as a button. And I've read her book. I've seen her perform. I've interviewed her, and I think that she kind of like what we talked about before. She has a very balanced perspective on her mom. She's very protective of her mother's image. She acknowledges that there was some dark elements to it, and
Sure.
any bad behavior, she makes sure that she attributes it to a problem that was unfortunately larger than all of us. You know, the problem that that she had, you know, with addiction. So I think that to me, speaking with her and reading her books really gave a very balanced image as well. And I have to admit, I did tear up when I saw when I heard her do "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas" at 54 Below. Yes.
I remember buying that CD when she did the only place you could get it was Colony Records.
It was an import.
It was an import.
Yeah.
When she did the
Songs my mother.
well, this was prior to that, and they spliced Judy's voice in. So this predated Songs My Mother Taught Me.
Yeah.
And she did it as a single, and you could only get it at Colony Records because it was imported. It was that big glass case when you walked into Colony Records where they had all of the imports locked up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
Colony Records. Wow.
Oh, I miss it so much.
Yes, yes, yes. Wow. So do I. So do
Yeah.
I. Yes, I miss not being able to show people who are visiting New York, taking them in there and showing them that space too. But oh well.
That was another one. I could spend hours in Footlight Records.
Oh yes, absolutely. I agree. Now you're both performers, and performing takes a lot of energy. You know, being up late, rehearsing, and going over things, and you know, you need to have that energy, you need to have that stamina, you need to keep your audience engaged from the very beginning to the very end. So do you two have any like health or fitness or dietary tricks to keep yourself like at the top of your game there? Do you, any kind of like regime that you follow to maintain that energy level?
For me, it's the gym. Cardio is so important. Cardio is really important to sustain, especially with Judy, some of those notes. Because, you know, they're ball breaking songs, things like Come Rain or Come Shine or By Myself, you know, they're huge. So you do have to have your stamina. And if you haven't got a lot of sleep, man, you're in trouble the next day. So definitely as much cardio as I can get in. That's why I miss going to the gym.
Yes, yes, yes. So do I. And it's rough too, because unless you have the luxury of having a home gym, then pretty much you're limited to just kind of like using the milk cartons, or you know, using a resistance band if you're lucky enough to have one in the closet, or just jogging, you know, jogging through empty streets. So,
Power walking, and then finally a friend got me a treadmill. So now at least I have a treadmill to use in the house. Little weights I was able to get off of Amazon and eBay. You know, when you talk about price gouging, man, these people know what they have. So just to get 4 sets of weights, you know, I was going to have to sell one of my cats.
Uh-oh. She didn't hear that. She didn't hear that. No.
They're both here now. There's Binks.
Here's the boy.
That's Binksy,
Oh.
Mr. Tuxedo.
Wow.
Come on in.
Well,
So-
one thing, they must be happy about all the extra attention that they get from you two being home more now. They're just like, wow, what did we do to deserve this? You know? Or
I have my own audience when I vocalize.
or the cats can also be like, oh, well, they could be very protective. They're like, wait a minute, this was our space, you know, between these hours. Now, what are you doing here? You know? Wow.
They don't
Definitely
Now-
confusing.
with us with everything. It's the old axiom.
So, DJ, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyway. As a Golden Girls expert, and as one of the stars in the Golden Girls Live, which I do have the utmost confidence will come back. Now, what do you think happened to the Golden Palace? Because I watched episodes of it also on YouTube, and I think it was really great, but there was just something missing from it. Why do you think the show just didn't hit it off with audiences? Why did it not make its mark in pop culture?
You're teeing this up so I can bat it out. I can tell you the reason why. I wasn't in it. I like Golden Palace, actually. Not having the B. Arthur dynamic certainly was an issue for the show. The plot of the show was unbelievably strange. That house was almost a fifth character in Golden Girls. So we feel that they should have gotten another celebrated actress. We like Debbie Reynolds if they were going to go for a woman, but Peter's idea is the best idea.
Well,
they should have brought in Phil. Harvey Firestein is Phil.
Oh, wow.
Right?
I would have loved to have seen it where Phil had staged his death, because here you would have had, he and Estelle had already worked together. They were good friends.
Torch Song.
From Torch Song. And I thought, how, you know, to have a man come in and take B. Arthur's place is almost redundant, but I mean, you could totally hear him saying, "Ma," you know, it would have, I thought it would have been a good idea if they would have brought, and just even Rue McClanahan said that. She said, when did Blanche learn to run a hotel? The whole idea was that she ran it badly,
right.
But if they had just kept them in the house and brought in a new roommate, and I think B was supposed to do 2 to 3 guest spots a year if they had continued with Golden Palace. So it's a cute show, but also they took them out of their time slot. And time slot is everything. They went from Saturdays at 9 to Monday nights at 8. So
Wow.
nobody knew where to find them.
Yep.
You know, and it was a different network, and because they were picked up. They were actually, Rue was doing a play in Vienna, and she got a call from her agent and said, they're picking up another 13 of Golden Palace. And she said, great. I got home Monday morning, my phone rang, and my agent said, they've dropped Golden Palace. They've decided not to do it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it had been picked up for 2 minutes.
I know that in her audiobook, Betty White talks about it too. And the critics I think they described it as a perfectly pleasant sitcom, but it didn't really have the magic that the Golden Girls did.
Sure.
And of course, I kind of knew all along that it was because of the absence of a certain someone, a certain Dorothy. But I wanted you to tell me that. Wow.
You know,
And she said it. She said it.
Yeah.
She said it on television herself.
you know, August 14th will be 17 years that we've been doing Golden Girls.
Yes.
And it was supposed to be our 2000th performance. So we are hopeful that we can bring it back next year so that we can get to that 2000 milestone. And somebody said, oh, you're going to get to 3000? And we said, let's get to 2000 first.
We'll get to 2000 first.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Well, I'm hoping so. I really am. Now, Peter, one of the other divas that you pay tribute to, one of the other legends, is Mae West, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and it was actually DJ that forwarded me the picture. I said something about Mae West on social media, and he says, "Did you ever see Peter as Mae West?" And I was just like, "Whoa!" I was blown away because I didn't know that you had an affinity for her. So now my Mae West story is we actually my husband Joe and I went to the Julian's auction in Beverly Hills last November, and it was a Mae West and Marilyn Monroe auction where they were auctioning off a lot of their possessions. And while Marilyn definitely still, her items went for not as much as they perhaps would have like 20 or 10 years ago, but they went for a lot of money. They were pretty much unaffordable. Mae's were a little bit more affordable, and unfortunately, a lot of this generation, a lot of her legacy, unfortunately, has been lost with them. They don't know exactly like how wonderful she was. So as we progress into 2020, what would you say about her, and what is it about her legacy that we should still, that should make us want to learn more about her?
Well, it's why I do what I do, even with Judy, because you get to millennials and you have to say Wizard of Oz. And then they go, oh, Dorothy, right. forget saying Liza because they go, Liza Minnelli's mother was Dorothy. You know, they don't even know that. So you have another perfect example, Tallulah Bankhead. When I do Tallulah Bankhead in the show, they really think I made her up. I mean, because of that deep voice and I mean, she, for all intents and purposes, especially as she got older, she almost became a drag version of herself. You know,
Yes, she did.
but I mean, then the name, and they think I made her up, and I think it's the same thing with Mae. We're in danger of these people being forgotten, and they shouldn't be. You know, there has to be room for all of it. So I'm thrilled that it's PBS that's doing the new documentary about Mae, which is great. So hopefully that will lead to more attention. I hope that this Harvey Fierstein, Bette Midler movie comes to fruition that they've been talking about for 2 years now, because that certainly would put her back out into the forefront. Because she was brilliant. The woman was just way ahead of her time. And then a strong businesswoman. I mean, you know, there was the facade and all of the but beyond that, you know, she was a really sharp cookie.
Peter writes all of our shows, so he writes and directs and stars in them, and we produce them. And Mae West was the same way. You know, oftentimes she would change the director's name and or the playwright's name, so it didn't look like Mae West, Mae West, Mae West.
Right, too much Mae West, Mae West, Mae West.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, she had a pseudonym, right? Jane Mast, I think, was her pseudonym.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Wow.
as drag performers, we owe her so much. You know, two of her most famous plays, she got arrested for one. One was called Sex, and then
The drag, right? Was that
The
the other
Drag
one
was
where
the other
she
one. It was-
got into trouble? Yeah.
she was the only female on stage. Every other actor was a man with a dress. And so talk about ahead of her time. Isn't she the one who level set Betty Davis?
Well, no, Betty Davis level set her. When they finally had dinner together, you know, because you must know this, her personal assistant for years was a guy named Craig Russell, who I adore. And we lost him way too soon. But I think that the breaking point for Mae was when she came home and found him in one of her gowns. And out he went. And she was very litigious about it. She didn't like the fact that people were using her act. And, you know, Betty tried to correct her and said, I don't see it that way. I see it as an homage, and you should be grateful that people are, you know, you're nothing until people start impersonating you.
And from that point,
But they did not see eye to eye on that. She didn't mind it, but she was not so crazy about that particular aspect of it.
right.
I mean, when I do Mae, and I always give credit where credit is due, to me, Charles Pierce was the living end. As Mae, I always integrate because I knew several of Charles's friends back in California. And I feel funny about using his material, and they were like, honey, he ain't using it anymore. That's number one. Because he's been gone so many years, and you just give him credit. So some of the Charles Pierce stuff that he came up with for Mae, I integrate into my act as well, because it's brilliant. It's just as brilliant as Mae's material. So,
And Charles Pierce isn't using the material anymore.
well, that's what Larry said. Yeah, it's like he's not
Yes.
using it.
Yes, and for all of you out there who want to learn more about Mae West and Charles Pierce, definitely like two people worth like learning more about. And
Yeah.
again, I hope both of them, their legacy does live on with the future generations and all that. So because of what they did.
What's Craig Russell? Google Craig Russell. What's the name of his movie that he did?
Oh, outrageous!
Yes.
Outrageous.
Outrageous. Yep.
Yes, a very underrated LGBT classic. Definitely worth
Yep.
rediscovery. Ripe for rediscovery. Wow. So, anything else you want to tell the masses besides obviously buy your tickets for Peter Mac as Judy Garland for June 10th? You can buy them at thejudygarlandshow.com. But anything else you want to tell the masses?
just I hope you'll come and see us and see Judy and support. You know, so many of us are trying to get live theater back in this weird kind of virtual way. So support as many people as you can, because it's tough. It's tough being a live performer and not having that outlet. You really miss it. I mean, I don't want to get into particulars, but we've lost 2 people to suicide as a result of them thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to perform again. Because, you know, we keep pushing back the dates because of the phases. And I know we lost one young gentleman, and we lost a gentleman in his 60s because they thought, I have no other way to live. I don't know how to pay my bills any other way. And that's really sad. And when you're a live performer, it's something that Audra McDonald once said. She said, you know, we're very vampiric. And she was talking about the fact that we live at night, we come to life at night, but we feed off of human energy. I mean, that's like a vampire going out for his drink. You know, he gets his energy and goes home and gets a good night rest. And so without it, I'm telling you, a lot of us are having sleepless nights.
Literally.
You know, we don't have that energy to draw from. Plus, in times like these, like with 9/11, we could comfort people. You know, that was a different kind of a tragedy. You didn't have to stay at home, and you could do shows and make people forget their troubles and just get happy. But now we can't even do that. So hopefully we can do it via the internet. And I'm grateful. I'm going on 18 years as Judy. It'll be in November 2nd will be my 18th anniversary. Grateful for all of the men who made it possible for me to do it, including, let me just say, the great Jim Bailey. Jim Bailey was the guy who proved you could do a classy Judy Garland act. And he's always been at the top of my icon pyramid. Adore that man so much. And he did so much just in terms of proving it. You can make him laugh and you can still be classy. You don't have to go into the gutter. So we owe a lot to Jim from that perspective.
Yep. Talk about somebody to Google. Jim Bailey's act is just transcendent, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another person well worth getting to know. And yeah. Well, again, I think your show is coming just in time because it is Gay Pride Month, and yes, I had to. So it is Gay Pride Month, and of course, you know, the 2 you know, Judy Garland's life and her legacy towards the LGBTQ community is just it's indisputable, and with her birthday and everything. So I think your timing is perfect, and I just can't wait to see it. I really can't, because I really enjoyed seeing you live, you know, and so as Peter Mac, but not seeing you as Judy.
Hopefully now you'll come and see me as forget Peter Mac, because I can only take Peter Mac in small doses. It's really quite it's a real Fruit Loop, you know, Peter Mac. But he's kept me working the last 18 years, so I owe him something, I suppose. But I can't wait to see. I'd love to see you in bed, by the way, Jed, sometime outside of Zoom. I don't Zooming is. That's Margaret Hamilton. She Zooms. I don't Zoom. But anyway, you're just marvelous, my goodness. And you should stay like that, just like that.
Oh, you're making me blush now, you know. Yeah. Well, I am just happy to have you know, not just one, but two hotties in bed with me. So thank you for that, you know. And yes. Well,
We're all
again,
Lucky Bear.
What's that?
We're all thinking it, Lucky Bear.
That's a very lucky bear, yes.
Oh yes, Paddington. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's having fun with this too. He's wondering, like, you know, why he's getting so much more affection than usual. I'm like, oh, you're just lucky. That's all, you know. Yes. I'm home a lot more too now, but when this is over, I plan to be out every single night, you know, every single night until they
Thank you.
out.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, don't we want to say something to you.
Thank you for all you do.
Yes, so I'm wearing my T-shirt that says "Thank you, essential workers," and you as a nurse, awesome.
Yes.
So thank you.
Well, yeah, I have to say it's very strange because I've been a nurse for over 20 years now. And I have to say that lots of times I never thought of it as glamorous or as it doesn't satisfy that creative urge that so many of my friends like you two and so many others, when they're writing music and writing songs and performing and just finding ways to channel that creative energy. And I have to say that a lot of it was just like, kind of standing in the shadows, admiring you all from stage, because you're creating things that will be with us for eternity. They'll either live on audio or video or in photographs. And but thankfully, when this happened, I finally found a way that I could feel useful. So for the first time in like 20 something years, I felt like I was really making a difference in the world. So thank you for that. I appreciate that compliment so much,
Hold the phone though. You're a really good photographer, a live performer photographer. So a lot of that being out there and in perpetuity is because of photographs that you've taken.
It's true.
So, I mean, the photograph that you took at the benefit for Peter's mom, she died of breast cancer. That picture is wonderful, and it hangs up in our house. We love it. So,
Great job.
Oh, thank you. Well, look at who I had as a subject. How could it not be wonderful? Wow.
Good lighting and a good photographer helps.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, we are going to leave off with a video of Peter as Judy. So we are going to leave the audience off with that. And again, thejudygarlandshow.com. Buy your ticket, and we will see you all on June 10th. And thank these two, Peter Mac and DJ Mac, for joining me in bed. And until next time, signing off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here tonight to see Peter Mac do Judy Garland. It's the most wonderful show. I had such a wonderful evening. It was like being back with Judy. He is absolutely fantastic.
Go see Peter Mac as Judy Garland!
Forget troubles, come on, get happy. You better chase all your cares away. Shout hallelujah, come on, get happy. Get ready for the judgment day. Go to my head, and you linger like a haunting refrain. And I find it spinning round in my brain, like the bubbles in a glass of champagne.
Fantastic. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. Uncanny ability.
You got in my head like a sip of sparkling burgundy brew, and I find the very mention of you like the kicker in a jewel or two.
Not to be missed, fantabulous.
The sun is shining, come on, get happy. The Lord is waiting to take your hand. So hallelujah, come on, get happy. We're going to the promised land. You made me love you. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. I could go on singing to the moon. Like a summer with 1,000 Julys, you intoxicate my soul with your eyes.
It was amazing. It was as close to seeing Judy Garland as you could ever come. And I was a Judy Garland fan all my life. I raised a Judy Garland fan, and she sang along with every tune all night long. We had a great night.
Oh my God, what a great time. I had such a great time. I had more fun.
Phenomenal. Great show. Everyone has to come and see it.
Peter Mac really can channel Judy Garland and cares for her, and you are watching Judy right there. Anyone who ever grew up with The Wizard of Oz, A Star is Born, it's Judy.
Amazing. There wasn't for one
single second that I differentiated the two. It was Judy.
And I also really like that it wasn't like a parody. It wasn't sort of over the top. It was
Clang, clang, clang with the trolley. Ding, ding, ding with the van. Zing, zing, zing with my heartstrings. For a moment I saw in my past. Chug, chug, chug with the motor. Bump, bump, bump with the brake. Thump, thump, thump with my heartstrings. When he smiled, you could feel the car shake. I'll stay home and be your kitty cat. Hello, bluebird. Hello.
I've never seen anything like it myself. The song's so realistic.
I found out things I didn't know about Judy, but also the voice was absolutely fabulous.
Happy, happy bluebird.
He has an amazing voice.
Yeah.
Really
when all the world is a hopeless jumble and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven opens a magic land.
Truly moving. Towards the end, I had tears in my eyes.
I was like, going to tears.
And I cried twice.
I cried!
I was crying because it was so believable. And I almost have to fight the tear because it's so warm. I always sit there and go, for all of us who grew up watching this, it's like going home.
Stars, they always upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me.
Because you really feel the essence of Judy.
I mean, really, I felt like, you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll laugh.
Because Peter Mac is Judy Garland. There's no question.
Fantastic entertainer, fantastic voice. Honor the memory of Judy Garland. A+ in my book. Fantastic show.
It's the closest you're ever gonna get to seeing Judy in concert.
Because he personifies Judy fabulously. The mannerisms, the songs, the voice, the costume, everything is Judy Garland.
Yep, it's the real deal. It's a show that it just can't be duplicated. It's a great time. It's great entertainment. It's a lot of fun, and it brings back memories too.
And Peter Mac's awesome. And so is Judy Garland. I was gonna say, all one of the same. Like, when this is like really easy now.
If you love Judy, you must see Peter Mac. You must.
If happy little bluebirds fly behind the rain.